Welcome to Fathers and Daughters, a podcast where we discuss important topics and current issues from a biblical perspective that are relative to fathers and daughters.
Please subscribe and email us at fdpodcast@yahoo.com with questions or episode topic suggestions. All right, welcome to episode 7.
Welcome to episode 7 of the Fathers and Daughters podcast.
We usually don't start it this official, so I feel weird being so official about it.
I know, but sometimes we got to be a little official.
Okay. All right, this episode is about Halloween. We got this request from Tyler Nichols, who's a good friend of mine, and he asked if we would do an episode on Halloween, and I said, that's a fantastic idea, since Halloween's in, 2 weeks?
Yeah, Halloween is in 2 weeks.
It's coming up at some point soon.
What day
Halloween's
is today?
the 31st.
Well, yeah, what day is today? Today is the 14th. We're actually recording like a week before this episode comes out.
Yeah, we go on vacation in 2 days, so we had to get ready.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
You're the one who has all the notes for today.
I have all the notes, but I'm just wondering why Tyler suggested that we do an episode on Halloween. Did he tell you why?
No, he just said, you should do an episode on Halloween. I was like, that's a great idea. I don't know why, but let's do it. It's just the holiday season. Like, we should do an episode on Christmas, on Thanksgiving. Like,
Halloween is not a holiday.
According to everybody else, it is. So
Holiday comes from holy day. Halloween is not a holiday. Halloween is a celebration. That tells you how I feel about Halloween.
I feel so like attacked right now.
But
verbally.
We'll get there. I mean, I'm very excited about this episode because I have very strong feelings about Halloween.
Yeah.
I just want to know what you have in mind, or what questions do you have, or, you know, what Tyler had in mind for this.
I think it was just a random suggestion.
Okay. All right. I think it was great because I really want to talk about this.
Okay, cool. Let's go.
All right.
You're the one with all the notes, so let's go.
Okay. So before we get into it, I want to ask you, what was the most memorable Halloween for you growing up?
Oh, goodness. This is going to sound weird. I don't know what I was dressed up as, but I do remember was when I was growing up, my best friend lived across the street from me, and we were friends for years. I mean, we're still friends, but I mean, life goes on and you do other things, and she's so great. But we lived right across the street from each other for a solid 13 years or something crazy like that. And I remember one Halloween, we wanted to go out trick-or-treating, and we were really super close to the other kids in the neighborhood. We were all a bunch of different ages, and we wanted to go just the two of us, and you were very against that. Granted, we had a really popular neighborhood. It was a relatively safe neighborhood. I mean, we grew up in the suburbs. It was pretty safe, but still, Halloween's a crazy time when crazy things happen, and as an adult, I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have let my kid go out either, so I get it.
It was a very busy neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh, Halloween
like
time
bussed
was
their kids over to our neighborhood.
Halloween time in our neighborhood was poppin'. Streets were filled. There was not. I mean, you had to be stocked up on candy to be ready. But we wanted to go trick or treating, and we had just become teenagers. We were probably 12 or 13, and we really, really wanted to go trick or treating. I don't even remember what we were dressed up as. And you said no, and so we said, okay, well then how will you let us go trick or treating? And you told us, you said, you can go, but I have to follow you. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. And you were like, you can go for an hour, 2 hours, whatever. Just let me follow you.
That was the cop in me. Yeah,
it was a cop in you. And you went with her mom. Her mom went with you, and her mom's name was Debbie, and she walked with you, and you guys followed us around. And I remember I didn't really have an issue with it. I was just like, yeah, whatever. They're looking out for our safety. But my friend was so mad. She was just livid that you guys had to follow us when we went trick-or-treating. And there was a house, and it was directly behind ours. So it was maybe behind ours and a couple down or whatever. But this house gave out full-size candy bars. But they only bought so many. And we learned this over the years. And so when trick-or-treating started at 7, that's right when the sun went down. When it started, you had to get to that house first. And so I remember we told you, we were like, hey, we got to get to this house because they are giving out full king-size candy bars. And we got to get to this house. And you just weren't ready to go yet. I just remember being so angry that we missed our window to get these king-size candy bars. And I remember getting there and they're like, sorry, we're all out. Here are these little, crappy mini candy bars. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I was just so mad that we didn't get to get our full-size candy bars.
But you don't remember what you were dressed up as?
I don't.
What was your most memorable costume?
The year we wore onesies.
Oh, just like a couple years ago?
Yeah.
When we went to Disneyland in onesies?
Yeah, we all wore a different onesie. I had like an Ariel
Yeah.
onesie. My mom had like a dragon unicorn thing.
Yeah, Ryan was
a Jack Skeleton,
right.
and you were Rocky.
Yeah,
And
that was so much fun.
I just loved being in a onesie. I was like, this is so great.
Yeah. By the way, if you have Disney passes, going to Disneyland on Halloween dressed up is so much
So
fun.
fun.
They'll kick you out early because they have Mickey Halloween night.
But you can always go to
whatever.
the other park
Right.
and just go to the other one. That's what we did.
But it's great being dressed up throughout the day.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never been like super into costumes. I really love dressing up. Oh no, I take that back. Last year's costumes were my favorite.
Yeah.
We went as Peter Pan and the gang, and so my mom was Wendy and had this really pretty blue dress that she wore. Ryan, we totally put this kid in like green tights, and he was Peter Pan, and he absolutely just killed it and was loving it. You went as Captain Hook, and we got you this giant black curly wig that you wore and a mustache, and you totally went all for the character. And I went as Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite because we went to Disneyland and we just had a blast. Like, it was just so fun getting to dress up and be stupid, and like we actually got like really into our costumes this year, so it was really fun.
That was fun for me. I love messing with all the Peters that I saw throughout Disneyland and just going.
You would run up
Peter!
as Captain Hook and yell at the little tiny children Peter Pans.
Yeah.
Like this little 9-year-old dressed up as Peter Pan has this grown man in a mustache and a black wig running up to him going, Peter!
Yeah.
I remember one of the kids was like, what the hell? It was great.
I'm surprised they didn't kick me out.
What was your most memorable Halloween?
So I have a good memory and a bad memory.
Okay.
So I grew up in, I know I've said this before, I grew up in TJ. And believe it or not, they celebrate Halloween there too. Parents are a little bit, or at least my mom was a little bit more careful about letting me go out in the neighborhood. But this was the first year that I was going to be able to go out with my friends and go trick-or-treating. And I was so excited.
How old were you?
Probably 10 or 11.
Okay, so she waited a little while before
Yeah.
she... That's still really young to just let a kid go out on the streets, though.
Yeah. And it was a group of kids that we used to hang out together. And that's when she felt comfortable to let me go out with them. Mm-hmm. And I was dressing up like a gorilla. So my mom used to sew a lot, and she made me my gorilla costume. And it was this like legit furry gorilla costume. And I don't know what we were cooking before I was supposed to leave, but there was something cooking on the stove. And for some reason, I went to grab the stove grill, whatever. What do you call that where the pan sits?
Oh, like the stovetop?
Yeah.
Like the rack that goes on top of the stovetop? Okay.
For some reason, I went to grab it to move it, but that's where she had been cooking right before. And I heard my skin
like sizzle?
Yes,
oh,
like sizzle.
So
like
gross.
I grabbed it and picked it up, and I just felt it and heard it, and then I just dropped it.
Oh, the
and
smell probably just overcame you.
So I went out trick-or-treating with a bandaged hand that night.
Oh, you still went out?
Yeah, I still went out. My other memory was in middle school. So I was this shy Mexican kid in middle school.
Did you go to middle school in the U.S.?
I went to middle school in the U.S. I don't know if it was 7th grade or 8th grade, but we had a Halloween dance. And I didn't have many friends that went to these dances, but I wanted to go this year. And I dressed up as a witch with a witch mask. So to me, it was a lot of fun because no one knew who I was. And I was able to play the character and just be outgoing because no one knew who I was.
Okay, that's creepy.
Like I was the shy kid, but not that night because I was the old witch. I like walked like an old witch. And everyone was like, who the heck is this kid?
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
And no one knew. And the whole night I just played the role. And it was so much fun.
Okay, that's really creepy.
Why is that creepy?
Because, I don't know, like, you don't think that sounds a little like psychopath?
It was a little freeing.
Yeah, that's the psychopath part.
Okay, I guess you can...
Yeah, you sound like a psychopath, I won't lie.
Okay, but those were my two memories.
Okay, interesting. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So I love the idea of dressing up and being with friends and having a good time, but I hate the idea of Halloween being scary and creepy in what it has become.
It's very satanic.
I guess it was always like that. And I want to go back and visit the history of Halloween,
Okay.
just for those people that don't know. So, Halloween originated back in the early days when the Celtics were conquering and taking over Ireland and England in that northern part of Europe. They celebrated a festival that they called Samhain. I think that's how you pronounce it, Samhain. And the purpose of this festival was to celebrate their end of the year. And their end of the year for them was the end of harvest and the beginning of winter. And the reason why they celebrated this is because there was a drastic change between the two seasons. And back then, winter for them brought in a lot of death and destruction because they didn't have what people have now to battle the cold weather. During the celebration, they believed that spirits could come and enter our world. So they believed that this festival tore down the veil or the curtain between this world and the spiritual world. They believed that the lines between living and the dead became blurred, and they wore costumes in order to distract or confuse these spirits when they came into our world. When the Roman Empire started conquering that area and the Roman Church started coming in, they wanted to change the celebration because to them this was pagan. So the Roman Church, in their infinite wisdom, instead of just preaching the word and the gospel and letting Jesus change these people's hearts, they created this new ritual. They created a day that they called All Hallows Day, where they celebrated, or that was meant to celebrate, the martyrs and the saints. So they thought that with this new festival or this new day, it was going to take away the Celtics or these pagans from celebrating what they were used to celebrating and come over to the Roman Church. But this backfired on them because they kept celebrating their Samhain. All Hallows Day was November 1st, and Samhain was October 31st. So October 31st became known as All Hallows Eve because it was the day before. And in time, this day morphed into Halloween, which I believe is a combination of Hallows Days and Samhain, the Celtic celebration. So, eventually it made it to the United States when the Irish people migrated here, and all those traditions came with them. But if you think about the root of Halloween, it has to deal with spirits, magic, mystery, death, darkness, and, all that dark stuff that is completely different than what Jesus wants in our lives. Are you still here? Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here.
Okay.
I'm letting you do your thing.
Okay. So don't even get me started on Easter and Christmas because there's a lot of stuff in there that we do that is not in the Bible. We might lose some listeners from this podcast, but this is the main reason why we do the podcast, because we want to spend time with each other and we want to share what God has taught us in our lives. Mm-hmm. And that's why I struggle with the creepy, scary, evil part of Halloween. What are your thoughts?
I think Halloween can be like a lot of things. I love dressing up. I think it's super fun. I love the ability to just kind of join together with your friends and put some costumes on and go out and get candy. I think that's fun. I think it's exciting.
Hold on. And like I said in the beginning, I really enjoy the idea of just being silly. Last year we dressed up as the Peter Pan gang, and then the other year that we wore onesies. That was just fun and silly and something that we could do as a family. Okay. I think where it gets crazy is where it just gets too evil.
And like I was going to say, I think Halloween is like a lot of things to where if you take advantage of it, or you do it for the wrong reasons, it can be very detrimental to yourself. Just like drinking alcohol. If you do it for the wrong reasons and you abuse alcohol, it can severely hurt your life. It can hurt yourself. It can hurt your body. And just like that for Halloween, if you're doing it for the reason of, worshiping the underworld, that's not cool. That's not okay. It can be very detrimental to yourself, to your family, to your body. I think a lot of people forget that that world is out there. And it's part of every day. It's around us all the time. It's how we're led into temptation. It's how it's just part of earth that we live on, And I think we forget that it's out there, and Halloween is an amazing opportunity for the devil to take hold of people. I'm not going to say I'm totally against Halloween, because I think there are some things that I think are fun and exciting, like collecting candy. It's candy. Don't read into the fact that it's just candy.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with your kids going up to houses and getting candy. That's okay. It's dressing up in a costume. It's just like wearing a wedding dress. You don't need to wear a wedding dress to get married. You do it because it's fun.
It's silly, right?
And it's fun, and it's crazy, and sometimes it's a little silly, but you don't need to wear a wedding dress to get married. You can just go get married. But wearing a costume on one day of the year and getting to pretend to be a celebrity or to pretend to be a Disney character or whatever is just fun, and it's exciting. I think it gets dangerous when you allow yourself to be subjective to a world that we forget's out there.
Right. And I agree. And I'm okay with that. Even this year, we're going to go hang out with some friends who make a big thing out of Halloween. And we're just going to go hang out with them. And we'll probably wear some silly costumes. But that's as far as we take it.
And I mean, think back to 2 or 3 years ago. Do you remember when like the clown thing was a big deal? When like people would dress up as clowns and just like walk the streets?
Yeah.
Remember when that was a big thing? That's where I was like, okay, this is too far. This is too far. That was the limit for me. I was like, okay, that's taking things to the next step. I think there's a lot of people in the world who enjoy horror movies. I don't understand you. Sorry, I don't get it. I don't understand the desire to go to Not Scary Farm or Universal Studios Hollywood Horror Nights. I don't get it. I just don't understand wanting to be terrified. I don't enjoy that. Some people might. Maybe they like the adrenaline. And like a couple of my friends were like, we should totally go to Hollywood Horror Nights. And I was like, I'll go with you during the day.
Yeah.
When night hits, I'm going to head home. But y'all can stay and do your thing. I especially don't like it when it's about like, oh, like when people are doing like the scary nuns, or when it's about the Bible and it's the spiritual things. Like that's where my line's drawn. I can't, the Freddy Krueger stuff or whatever. I'm like, it's a way to get people's adrenaline pumping. That's essentially what it is. Whatever, like if you want to be stupid and do that kind of stuff, go nuts. But when you start talking about spiritual things, I think that's where it's too far.
Yeah.
I think there's an entire industry made out of making horror movies, and it's just to get people's blood pumping. I don't think, I would hate to think that there's ill will there. I'm sure there is in some places, but for those people who just watch horror movies, like it's just to get your blood pumping. Other than that, when it starts to become about spiritual attacks on people and possession and demons, I'm like, that's not something you play around with.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff's out there. That kind of stuff happens every day. That's not something you joke about. That's something that can be very, very hurtful and very bad for your life and for your family. We've gone through multiple spiritual warfares of dealing with this type of enemy. And it's not fun. It's not funny. It's not to get your adrenaline pumping. It's serious. It's scary. But we have power over that enemy. And I think that's something we need to circle back to at the end of saying that kind of stuff's out there, but you have a hold over those things that are going on in the world.
Sure. Yeah. And there was a point in time when I made the decision that our family was not going to go that far. Our costumes are not going to be evil, creepy, and scary. And our house was not going to display things like witches
or ghosts or
skulls. We have pumpkins throughout the house just because I like the colors.
It's freaking fall, people.
And the fall and, all that stuff. But all that went out the door once I started experiencing and learning about how real spiritual warfare is. And I don't want to be the judge of what people should and shouldn't do. All I'm saying is that if you're a Christian, I'm challenging you to look at what God wants for us in our lives, what He is about, what He teaches, and then analyze how we celebrate some of these things that the world may celebrate differently. With that, I want to bring up some scripture. In the Bible, you never hear about Halloween. Jesus never talked about Halloween because this wasn't something that was celebrated in that area at that time.
Sure.
But we see a lot of spiritual stuff throughout the Bible and warnings and instructions when it comes to that. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be alert and sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour." We've heard this a lot. And I think once you start tapping into this evil stuff, you're letting
You're opening
the
that lion's
enemy
cage.
come in. We've all heard of Ephesians 6:12 that says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." Okay, right here we learn that there is an evil force in the world and that there is a struggle going on. And if you're a Christian, you have to believe that this is real. The third letter of John, chapter 1, verse 11 says, "Dear friend, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. Anyone who does what is good is from God. Anyone who does what is evil has not seen God." And this is where we should feel convicted if we're into all this evil stuff. 2 Timothy 1:7, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." I see a lot of this Halloween stuff related to fear. You know, like when you go into these haunted houses and costumes and everything.
They want to scare you.
They want to scare you. They want to make you fearful. And fear does not come from God. 1 John 1:5. "This is the message we have heard from him and declare to you. God is light. In him there is no darkness at all." If you think about Halloween, it's all about darkness, right? The celebration is at night. Everything spooky is in the dark. And God's not about that. God came to defeat death. And it just feels like during Halloween we celebrate death a lot.
Yeah.
My last Bible thumping verse. John 8:12. "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in the darkness, but will have the light of life." So, don't get fooled by the darkness that you may see in Halloween. Remember that Jesus is the light, and he said that himself. So, as a young woman, what advice do you give girls that are out there? Because it's rough right now when you look for a costume and you get all these sexy ads for like sexy cats and sexy nurses and all that stuff. And, you know, for young girls, that may be appealing. What would you say to that?
Yeah, so I agree with everything you said. We kind of got like pretty deep into like the underworld stuff, you know?
I know. I told you were going to get me started on this.
I'm not going to.
Wait till we get into the spiritual warfare podcast. And
Okay. But to bring it back up just a little bit, because wearing costumes isn't always bad, and there's fun things that can be fun for Halloween that don't include getting in touch with the devil. But wearing costumes can be fun. Wearing costumes can be exciting. I would say, yeah, it is super, super appealing to see some kind of risque costume and be like, oh, wow, I want to wear that. I want to look like that. Especially as a young woman, your body's changing, your body's evolving. You're going to want to maybe show off some of the newer things that are changing on your body. So wanting to get a kind of skanky outfit can be fun. Skanky, especially with these short dresses and the knee-high socks and all these things can be super appealing. I would say just be careful of how much of your body you show. There's a movie called Mean Girls, and I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
Yeah,
okay,
I grew up with you.
Okay.
I didn't grow up with you, but
I
was your dad while you were growing up.
So there's this movie called Mean Girls, and in the movie,
plastics.
They invite her to a Halloween party. You know, the newer girl, Katie. And they invite her to a Halloween party. And at the Halloween party, she shows up in this, like, and they told her, like, we take Halloween very seriously around here. And she's like, all right, great. So Katie comes in this long black wig. Her face is painted. She's got ugly teeth. and a giant like wedding dress, as if she's like the corpse bride, right? And so she comes like dressed in this really elaborate, very not sexually appealing costume. And she walks in, and all the women at the party are dressed like Playboy bunnies, like sexy cats, like sexy mice, like all these things. And she's very caught off guard. And I kind of felt like that as a kid a little bit. A lot of the girls at my school came in very risque costumes, looking a specific way, trying to show off specific things. And I definitely didn't come in the very risque costumes. I was very conservative with my outfits. I just didn't want to show too much skin. And so I remember just looking around and just being so put into, amazement that women would wear these things, especially going into high school. Going into middle school wasn't that much of an issue. You'd have one or two here or there. But going into high school, it was just an excuse to wear less clothes. And there were so many of them that the school didn't really care about enforcing dress code. And so young women that are out there, I would just say be careful of how much your body you show. Be careful what you dress up as. I'm seeing way too many little devils running around. Literally, like, dressing up like a tiny devil. Like we said, that's just not something you want to play around with. Be careful what you do. There's good costumes out there. I'm sure Party City doesn't sell very many of them, but there's a good way to do it. I mean, some of the best costumes I've had are the ones that I've made myself. Not physically sewn or whatever, but go on Amazon, piece together a costume. It might look better than the one you find at the store. But be cautious of how much of your body that you show. Your boobs don't have to be out there all the time. Your butt doesn't have to be hanging out. For it to be a good costume. Even things that are super tight, I would just say be careful. If your grandma saw you walking out of the house, would she be okay if you were dressed like that? If she was, you have a weird grandma. But just be careful what you put on your bodies. Just be cautious. Don't physically represent yourself as someone who you're not. Wearing a costume doesn't mean you become that person. You're still you. You're still your person, regardless of what you're wearing. But your character is always going to show more than your costume is.
A couple years ago, I told someone that I didn't like dressing up because I like who I was. Why would I want to dress up as anybody else? And I do agree, it's fun to dress up, but I think dressing up is not as important when you're sure of who you are. And going back to my experience in middle school, the reason why I enjoyed that night so much is because I was not confident in who I was, and I was shy and unsure. So putting on that costume allowed me to masquerade all those feelings that I was having, and I was just able to be someone else. And I think it's important that we know who we are. And if we dress up, it's just for fun. And for the dads out there, I just want to challenge you to be the spiritual leader of your home and decide what you want your family to do, how you want your family to celebrate. It's okay to have fun, have a good time with friends, but make sure we're honoring God.
And dads, there is no reason why you cannot veto a Halloween costume.
Oh, yeah.
Ladies, if he vetoes it, there's probably a good reason.
With that, I have a game for you.
Oh, cool.
Okay? So I know you're not into horror films, and you didn't watch a lot of horror films growing up because that wasn't our thing.
No.
So I think this game is going to be a little challenging.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So I'm going to tell you the character in a quote-unquote horror film.
Oh, I'm going to get none of these. This is going to be so embarrassing.
And you have to tell me what movie
it is.
that's from.
Okay. Yeah, I'm automatically done. All right.
Okay. The first one is Pennywise.
Oh, that's from It.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Norman Bates.
Bates Motel.
Okay.
Right? Is that the movie title?
That's
The Bates
that's
Motel?
a spin-off, yeah. What was the
Oh, that was the TV show that they made,
Yeah.
right? The Bates Motel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the movie.
Psycho?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Chucky.
Oh, that's from the movie Chucky.
That's not the name of the movie.
Oh, is it not?
Chucky is
That's the character. It's the
creepy
little
doll,
doll
yes.
that comes alive and tries to kill everybody.
Yes.
I thought the movie's name was Chucky.
No.
No?
It's Child's Play.
Okay, so pause the game.
Okay.
Fun story. When I was probably 11, I went to a sleepover with a bunch of girls from my softball team. We were all at this girl's house, and I was really iffy about going initially, and it was right after I got my cell phone. And they were like, we hung out for like maybe an hour or two, and they said that we were going to watch the Chucky movie. And I was like, girl, bye. I ain't gonna hang. No, this is not a thing. And I was just I was like, I'm not watching it. I will sit outside in the cold by myself before I watch this movie with you. And you want to know what they said?
What?
Fine, go sit outside.
Didn't you call us and we?
So you want to know what I did? I went and got my bag. I got my sleeping bag, and I went and sat on her doorstep and called you and said, you better come get me.
Yeah, and we did.
And I sat out there for 15 minutes by myself until you came and got me from the house.
Wow.
I was like, I will not watch that movie. I know it will give me nightmares. I knew myself well enough. But I was like, how rude. Like, you can't change the movie. Anyway, sorry,
Good
that was
for
my
you.
side story. Thank you.
Good for you. All right, next one. Michael Myers.
I don't know.
This is a classic.
I didn't watch horror movies. Wait, is that Friday the 13th?
No.
Oh, dang.
It's Halloween.
Oh, I didn't watch any of these.
Halloween. Michael Myers. Freddy Krueger.
No, that's Friday the 13th.
No.
Oh, just kidding. I don't know. I have no idea. I've never seen any of these movies.
Nightmare on Elm Street. This movie gave me nightmares, for real. Jason Voorhees.
Friday the 13th?
Yes!
Oh, yay!
That was lucky.
That's the one with the mask with the holes in it, right? Okay. The white, the like hockey mask? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Leatherface.
Project Runway? I don't know.
Make it work, the song.
I have no idea.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay, listen. The title of the movie is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, why would you want to watch that? It is about a massacre of people with chainsaws. I'm sorry if you like that movie. I really don't care right now. What would make you want to watch that? I don't understand. Okay, just roll the next one.
The last one.
Okay.
And this is a classic.
Okay.
Jack Torrance.
I have no idea.
Here's Johnny.
I don't know.
Come on.
I don't know. I didn't watch these.
Red rum.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's The Shining.
Yeah, I didn't watch The Shining, nor did I read the book.
Okay. All right.
I don't enjoy horror movies.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you didn't get most of these. That tells me that, and I knew this, that you were not into horror movies. But I just thought I would test you. Anyways.
You want to know the scariest horror movie I ever watched?
Sure.
It was the Halloween episode of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
That's so vanilla.
Like, dead serious. That used to freak me out. Yeah. That is the scariest horror movie I ever watched. And you know what? That is the only horror movie I'll ever watch. Yeah. So, moral of the story, be careful what you let into your house.
Yeah.
Be careful what you teach your kids. Don't dress nasty on Halloween. And horror movies are for crazy people.
And that if you believe in Jesus Christ, he is the light, and you should not fear anything because the name of Jesus has power.
Preach.
Okay. So I apologize for getting on my soapbox during this episode, but I just have strong convictions about this topic, and and I hope you come back and listen again.
Please listen next week. Each week is not like this. Okay, bye.
Right. And I would like to say happy Halloween, but that just doesn't seem right. So
crappy Halloween. So have a crappy Halloween.
So enjoy a safe October 31st. Thank you for listening to the Fathers and Daughters podcast, a Moosegood Entertainment production. For questions, comments, or topic ideas, email fdpodcast@yahoo.com. Please subscribe and tune in every week for new episodes.